By the end of this video, you won't be able to grab a shopping cart without thinking about the con that made you comfortable doing it. One of the most boring objects on Earth needed a staged psychological trick just to survive its first year on the market. And that exact same trick is still being run on you today by companies far bigger than a single Oklahoma grocery store. This man doesn't work here. He's not shopping. He was paid in cash to walk up and down this aisle pretending to buy groceries he has no intention of buying. Because the store's owner had just invented something so humiliating to be seen with that real customers refused to touch it. That object is sitting in your garage or folded up in a corral outside your grocery store right now. You've pushed one 1,000 times without a second thought. This is the story of the shopping cart. Quick question. What do you think was the single biggest limit on how much a grocery store could sell in 1936? Not inventory, not prices, not even how many customers walked in the door. It was arm strength. Self-service supermarkets were still a new idea in the 1930s. Before this, you'd hand a clerk a list and they'd walk the aisles and gather everything for you. Self-service let customers roam the store themselves, which was cheaper and faster to run. But it created a hidden ceiling nobody had designed for. Shoppers could only buy what they could physically carry in a handbasket. The second your arms got tired, you stopped shopping, no matter how much money was in your pocket or how much more the store wanted to sell you. In the middle of the Great Depression, with margins already razor thin, that invisible ceiling was costing grocers real money every single day. One man in Oklahoma City kept watching this happen, store after store, night after night. Sylvan Goldman, owner of the Standard and Humpty Dumpty supermarket chains. And Goldman didn't just see a minor annoyance, he saw money walking out the door in customers' tired arms. One night in 1936, staring at a folding chair in his office, Goldman had the spark. What if the chair could roll? And what if you stacked 2 wire baskets on top of it? He and a mechanic friend welded the frame that same night. 2 baskets, 1 folding chair skeleton, 4 small wheels. It looked more like a strange rolling stool than anything we'd recognize today, but it doubled a shopper's carrying capacity instantly. Goldman filed a patent application for what he called a combination basket and carriage, and in June 1937, he rolled his invention into his stores under the banner "The No Basket Carrying Plan," advertised in the local paper as the latest device conceived by the mind of man. He expected gratitude. He got silence. Nobody touched the carts. And the resistance broke down almost perfectly by gender for 2 completely different and completely human reasons. Men avoided the cart because in 1937, quietly carrying your own groceries was a small daily proof of physical strength, and a cart made you look like you couldn't manage a few bags on your own. Women avoided it for the opposite reason. They'd spent years pushing baby carriages already, and this looked exactly like one, just repurposed for cans and produce. One woman put it to Goldman directly, "I've pushed my last baby buggy." So Goldman had built something objectively useful, cheaper to run, easier on the body, and proven to increase how much people bought once they actually used it. And it was dying in his own stores anyway. Not because the engineering failed, because nobody wanted to be the first person seen using it. Here's where bonding does something most business owners in his position would never think to try. He doesn't run more ads. He doesn't explain the cart better. He doesn't discount it. Instead, he hires people, men and women of different ages. Some accounts describe them as models, others as ordinary actors, and pays them in cash to walk his stores pushing empty carts like it's the most normal thing in the world. He stations greeters near the entrance to casually mention the carts to anyone who looks confused. No announcement, no pitch, just people, calmly, confidently doing the exact thing he needed real customers to start doing on their own. And it worked, almost immediately, for a specific, provable reason. Humans very rarely decide what's socially acceptable through logic. We decide by watching what everyone around us is already doing without consequence. One man alone with a cart is a spectacle. 5 people calmly using carts with nobody reacting or staring is just Tuesday. It stops being a decision and quietly becomes background noise. Goldman never actually sold a product that week. He staged the appearance of a social norm and let real shoppers copy it without ever realizing they'd been the ones nudged. Within weeks, his own customers were using the carts completely unprompted. By September 1937, he was confident enough to debut the cart at the very first supermarket convention in the country, showing a promotional film built specifically to convince other store owners to steal his idea. But here's the part almost nobody tells you, the part that makes this story sharper, not simpler. The man who just proved that perception beats invention was about to get beaten at his own game. Goldman's original cart had one major flaw he never solved: storage. Every single night, staff had to pull the baskets off the frames, stack everything separately, and reassemble the whole thing again the next morning before the doors opened. It worked, but it was a genuine chore. Store after store every night of the year. In 1946, a freelance Kansas City inventor named Orla Watson fixed it. Watson designed a cart with a hinged, swinging rear gate that let one cart slide directly inside the next, nesting back to front, needing 0 nightly assembly, in exactly the shape every cart you've ever used still has today. It was a genuinely better invention on every measurable level. Watson filed for the patent, found investors, and started selling his design through a company he co-founded called Telescope Carts, Inc. Goldman found out, and instead of licensing Watson's design, his own company quietly engineered an almost identical cart called the Nest Bass Cart and rushed it to market first. A legal fight dragged on for 2 years. Watson had genuinely filed first, but Goldman had the manufacturing scale, the retail relationships, and the pricing power to outlast him anyway. In 1949, they finally settled. Watson kept official credit on the patent and royalty payments on every cart sold, but it was Goldman's company that ended up manufacturing and distributing almost all of them, and Goldman who walked away a multi-millionaire while Watson's own company quietly struggled and folded. Sit with that for a second. The man whose entire legacy is psychology and perception beat pure engineering ended up proving his own rule a second time. Except this time, he wasn't the underdog anymore. He was the incumbent, using the exact same social and market leverage against the better inventor. Watson built the objectively better machine. Goldman still won because he controlled distribution and perception, not because he controlled the best idea. Once that original psychological barrier broke, the cart didn't just survive, it became infrastructure. And everything after it only makes sense because of that first push. The nesting design let a single store lot hold 200 or more carts in the space that used to fit a fraction of that number. A child seat was welded onto the design in 1946. A seatbelt for that same child seat wasn't added until 1967, meaning for over 20 years, toddlers rode shopping carts completely unrestrained through crowded parking lots, and almost nobody blinked at it. Bigger, easier-to-store carts justified bigger stores, which justified more inventory, more product categories, and more bulk buying. Some retail historians argue the modern supermarket, and later the big-box superstore, couldn't exist in its current form without this one specific design fix. But that total acceptance came with a price nobody was watching for. The object nearly nobody wanted in 1937 is now so unavoidable that it's become a genuine, ongoing economic headache. Roughly 2 million shopping carts go missing or get stolen every year in the United States alone, costing retailers upwards of $175 million a year in replacement and repair costs combined. The term for this, cart napping, was coined by the New York Times all the way back in 1957, which means people have been stealing shopping carts as a recognized cultural phenomenon for nearly 70 years. And to this day, nearly half of every cart manufactured in America still comes out of a single factory in Wagoner, Oklahoma, less than 2 hours from the exact store where Goldman first tried and failed to give this thing away for free. Multiple public health studies have also found that a shopping cart handle carries more bacteria on average than a public restroom door handle. Not because carts are dirty by design, because practically nobody thinks about them long enough to ever wipe one down. That's not just a gross-out fact for the comment section. That's proof of total invisibility. You don't worry about germs on things you've stopped consciously noticing at all. So here's the actual takeaway, and it's bigger than groceries. Goldman didn't win because he built the best cart. He explicitly didn't. Watson did, and still lost the bigger prize a decade later. Goldman won because he understood something most people never consciously think about. The fastest way to change a habit isn't to argue someone into it with facts or ads. It's to make it look like everyone already agreed, quietly, and let people copy what they assume is already normal. That's not a 1937 story. That's the exact mechanism behind product launches, fashion trends, everyone's already doing it marketing, and a good chunk of what's shaping your decisions online right now, today, without you ever noticing the seams. Next time you grab a cart without thinking twice, you're not making a neutral, practical choice. You're finishing a psychological experiment that started with a paid actor in 1937. And honestly, it's still running. If you want the next hidden story behind an object you touch constantly and never think about, subscribe, because every single video on this channel is built to hand you exactly one, wait, seriously? Moment like this one. See you in the next one.